So here's an example of a customer that has returned a torch walker for a fitting issue. However, you can see that these torch walkers from the external side look fairly different. But with a torch walker, there's a lot of internal balancing material in here, in the heel and the sole area, and in the plastic that can cause the external dimensions to be different. However, the internal dimensions are probably very similar. And if we take out these inserts, and you see in the one the patient's been wearing here that there is a number of things that have been put in to take up some extra room. We even got a heel pad in here. So all of this material was inside of the old boot, and we have here the new insert. So if you look at the new insert on top of the old insert, you can see that the dimensions are pretty much the same. So when looking at this device, you can't look at the external measurements of it. You got to compare what the internal measurements of it are. This person had this extra piece of insole material put on, plus this heel pad in here. This practitioner that sent this back to us was concerned that the new device here would have been too small. But as you can see, they've added all this material because their old boot was too loose. However, again, if you compare the external dimensions or the external appearance of the boot, the one on the left, which is the older boot here, seems to be much larger. But in actuality, it's really not, because we're adding all this material. Okay, so my suggestion is when you get a device, especially if they've had the device before, the first thing you do is pull out this insert. You match this insert against the person's foot, the patient's foot, and check around the toe area. There should be at least between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch material showing at the end of the patient's foot. Right then and there, you can pretty much tell whether the device is going to fit. The only other issues you may have when fitting this device is if the toe box is too low here, you may have some of the device hitting some maybe hammer toes or some toes that are overlapped on the top here. So that's something you gotta just palpate when you get it on the patient. But the first step should be to take the insert out, put the patient's foot on it, and see if it matches. Don't compare it with a previous device, because these are fully custom handmade devices and they need to be compared individually to the patient's foot, not to each other.